Today, Ben and I are going to be talking about the 2024 film Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's go ahead. Let's jump right in. What are you thinking? How did you feel about this movie?
So in a relatively barren 2024, Deadpool and Wolverine is that warm little center that we all needed. This is going to be rough, folks, for the next 6 to 12 months with those strikes. Like there's just not a lot of content coming out. And so this is a pretty good one, right in line with the first two entries. So if you like Deadpool and Deadpool 2, this is more the same. And then you get these nice jabs against Disney and Fox and the Marvel merger and the whole thing. Yeah. Before I hand it over to you, I've realized we've entered the true parody stage of the MCU.
Yes.
I mean, this is kind of where we're at now. Like, it's not just that this is the Deadpool character. Like, frankly, this is probably where we're at for the time being. Is the thing's evolved enough and it's been around long enough that the only thing they've got left is for it to make fun of itself.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it does that at the highest levels possible with this film.
And that's also going because this was being shot during the writer's strike, that Ryan Reynolds had to stay on script. He could not improvise. He could not go off script because of the writer's strike. Like, that it had to be almost word for word. So they had to hope that they landed some of those jokes or edited him afterwards or whatever. So it's still quite funny. And I think I'm going to say we're probably going to do spoiler on this. So if you haven't seen it, it's one of those that's going to be somewhat difficult to talk about if we don't do a little bit of spoilers. So we'll try to keep them at a minimum. But if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, turn this off, go see it, and then come back and listen to it. So,
exactly.
So I'm going to start off. I had probably one of the worst movie-going experiences when I saw this film, right? Like, absolutely terrible. I was telling you about it already, but for our listeners, we walked in and sat down, and the AC was not very high, or not running very, very strong. And so it's really warm, and there's these leather chairs that we're in. And so you're just kind of like starting to stick to the leather chair, just very uncomfortable. And then the movie was late. There were no previews, which I'm fine with, whatever. I don't care about previews. But then it starts in this almost sepia tone, or like basically like almost no color, like not quite black and white, but everything was really dull. Like red looked almost orange, and some of the orange looked almost yellow. Like it was the opening sequence of the fight scene with the TVA between Deadpool and the TVA. And Deadpool's always supposed to be red and TVA's orange, but like everything kind of just was down. And so it happened like this for 15 minutes. And at first I was like, oh, maybe this is supposed to be like this, or like it's some weird thing and they're going to pop it back. And then absolutely not. Then it goes into his kind of callback of, talking to the Avengers and talking to Jon Favreau, and everything was also washed out. And so it was just this, at that point, I'm like, I need to get up and say something. And all of a sudden the entire screen goes black for about 10 seconds. Audio still running, scenes moving forward, nothing. And then pops back on and the color's back to normal. Now, here's the other thing too, was we saw it in like the extreme screen. It was this, they don't have IMAX, but it's like their super big screen or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was like super small on the screen. Like you could see the black borders. And as it comes back, as it comes back, you can just see the projectionist basically sizing the screen to fill the entire screen. Like, kind of doing like the zoom in or whatever, like making it.
And the offending theater company shall remain nameless.
Nameless. Yeah. At this moment in time. I have high hopes. They just got bought out by another company, and so the company's only had it for a month. But I digress. This is problematic. Of course, I haven't been to this theater in like 5 years, and so because I was doing Regal all the time, so this is not giving me high hopes. But I digress. I say all of that because I still walked away really enjoying this film, like really getting into it. And it's more kind of like what you said. It's so tongue in cheek. It's so funny. And obviously it doesn't take itself seriously at all, breaks the fourth wall in many different ways, much like the others do. It's more of the same. I don't think if you just took it as a Deadpool film and compared it to the others, like I think it's on par with 2, if not even a little bit weaker than the others. It's definitely Deadpool 1 is still, in my opinion, better than this film. But watching this on the back of kind of these lackluster MCU films that have come out, it made it that much better, and especially because, his introduction into the MCU, Wolverine coming back, all those different things just was a delight to watch. And I really enjoyed it. Now, thinking about it going, if I'm going to see it a second time or a third time, does it have the staying power? Is it going to really hit me like I did this time, the second viewing? Like, am I going to enjoy this much? Is it going to work? Or is it some of these things really best on the first viewing? I
think it's kind of a one-off. And because I feel that way about the first and second Deadpool film. And I rank them right in line with you. I think the first one, its freshness factor is a big part of it. First out of the gate, that's my favorite. And then I put this right on par with part 2. I might actually like it a little bit better just because I get to watch, him interplay with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
I probably would give it the nod over 2. And I kind of was disappointed though that they didn't bring Brolin back.
Yeah.
as Cable for this, just, I don't know, for 10 seconds just to kill him or something. It was kind of surprising, but yeah, I feel like these are just one-off laugh fests. And yeah, I'm sure there's some repeat viewing potential, but I mean, the plot is like paper thin, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like,
no. And I would say so much so that it shows some of how far the MCU has gone, how crazy the MCU has gone, that a story in a Deadpool film this ridiculous, if you've watched the TV shows and all that, actually makes sense. Like, it actually fits into the timeline, into the MCU, like, sacred timeline, when it shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't. This entire movie should not work as an MCU film, but it does.
Yeah, and I kind of give them a tip of the cap for the simplicity of the plot, because they know what they're making. They're making a comedy, a satire for the entire product. And so the plot, for them to invest a bunch of time and energy into this complex, convoluted plot would have been a complete waste of their energy. You can tell the writers are just like, okay, next joke. How many of these can we fit in here? And it's as relentless as the other 2 films. I was laughing really hard. Gwen was laughing. She's seen, I think, Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to see this movie though. Like, let me make that very clear. So I wanted to see Twisters with her, and we went to the AMC. I've got a couple different theater options here. We've got AMC and a couple Regals, and then a new entry on the block, independent theater, which I have high hopes for if they can change their location. But anyways, I digress. So we went to the AMC because I wanted a little bit better viewing experience for Twisters. I didn't buy my tickets ahead of time. We get there and all that's available is like front row.
Oh.
Or he says, if you wait until like right at the start of the screening, I can sell you one of the handicap accessible. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, so we waited like 20, 30 minutes, got a cocktail at the AMC bar, chilled, hung out, and saw Deadpool and Wolverine. And it was meant to be.
Yeah.
It was meant to be. And I won't get into it, but I needed a laugh at that point in time. So it fulfilled that and more. Fortunately, didn't have any of the technical issues. It's a good looking movie. It sounds great. Channing Tatum is wonderful and all in his unintelligible glory. Like, it's perfect. It's just perfect. It knows what it is, and it just operates in that space beautifully. And it's a very, very funny film.
It is a very funny film. Well, and I love all of the jokes that happen that obviously talk about, like, break the fourth wall. Like, Channing Tatum talks about his character Gambit is basically saying, like, I think either my world was already destroyed. I don't know how to get back, or I was just born into the void, which makes sense because he was actually attached to a Gambit project that fell through and never got made. So it's like, it's this fun little thing. Or like when Elektra is talking, and they're like, "Hey, so what happened to Daredevil?" And he's like, "He died." And then Deadpool's kind of like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she's like, like, yeah, yes, like these jokes are amazing.
They are.
I really loved them bringing back, but I will have to say when Blade walked out, like when Wesley Snipes walked out, still looked the part, like absolutely great shape. Looked like he could still be playing it, and killed it. Just absolutely killed it as Blade. And I was like, and I love his statement of just like, there will only be one Blade. And I was like, done. Let's just call it. Yeah.
I still think that the first Blade film in particular is one of the best live action comic book adaptations ever made. And it's maybe a separate discussion down the road, but I do hold that film in high esteem. And so, the crowd went, I shouldn't say crowd because it wasn't that big a screening, but I mean, it was full, but everybody did go nuts when he came out. Now, I will say, I'm very proud to say that when I go to a film like this, I am usually responsible for making everyone else in the theater feel okay to laugh at the most inappropriate jokes. Like, I try to break that ice. I laugh hard, I laughed loud, and I laugh often. And I could tell people people in my proximity, like behind me, were starting to kind of warm up. It didn't take long. So by the middle of the movie, everybody's laughing as they should. It's weird. Like, you're paying a lot of money to go see this. And it's like, really, you're that uptight that you don't think it's appropriate to laugh at this? I mean, it reminded me of going to The Ringer with Johnny Knoxville, which is a super politically incorrect movie. That's amazing. And a group of us went to see that in the theater, and I didn't care. I was like, I've paid my money. I don't care. I'm going to laugh. And eventually we had the crowd the screening audience loosened up to say, okay, this is all right. Like, it's okay to laugh. It doesn't matter how politically incorrect this is. Like, you've paid your entry fee, and these writers want you to laugh at this stuff.
Yeah. You definitely are better at that than I am, but I will say I was pretty much from the get-go just laughing. And I think Laura and I were the only ones laughing in a row for, like, again, probably the first quarter of the movie. You get a couple chuckles here, but there's a lot of jokes that are either too quick or too over people's heads, or just inappropriate enough or uncomfortable enough. Like, I don't know if I should laugh at that. And I'm just like, I'm just laughing. I'm just going to enjoy myself. Like, this is what I came here to do and see.
I feel like a movie like this is a reaction to the kind of uptight country we've been in the last 15 years. Like, the pendulum is swinging back, and unfortunately it's probably going to swing too far.
Oh, it always does.
That's kind of what we do. I'm not just talking politics. I'm talking everything. Like, all we do here is just pendulum swing from one side to the next, back and forth. And right now we're on the upswing into, hey, inappropriate's funny. And that's where we're going to go with this. But you're right there. It's rapid fire. For me, I won't spoil it, but for me, I mean, frankly, maybe the funniest part of the movie was after the credits.
Yes.
I mean, that might have been my favorite, running joke gag in the whole movie was the credits had already run. It was the end scene, and I won't spoil it because it's totally worth the price of admission. But I was like, wow, that's a nice touch.
So I do have a question for you. One of the big things that people had problems with this film before it came out was they really felt that Logan, which I think you and I have talked about before this podcast, we both really liked and enjoyed and thought was a fantastic film. But Logan sent Wolverine off in style. And people basically were like, don't bring him back. Let him just stay, dead, have his send off. What were your thoughts of him coming back in this? Like, did it justice? Did you think it ruined Logan in that regard? Or what were your thoughts on how they handled it?
Okay, I probably should caveat it that I do really appreciate the film Logan, but I don't hold it in the esteem that most of the fans of Marvel or the X-Men universe hold it. I think it's a fabulous film, but I know folks that put that right alongside The Dark Knight. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. For me, it's just not even in the same stratosphere. It's a very, very good. It's the best thing that Jackman's done as that character. No, I didn't think this ruined that or took away from it. This film did oddly treated that film with great reverence to hilarious comedic effect, with its opening sequence.
Yeah.
And if you think like that dumped all over Logan, then I just don't think you have a good understanding of making movies and frankly making money. Because at the end of the day, and then the other factor too that people are ignoring is that Hugh Jackman's responsible for this. Not some studio head forcing him to do something, or it was all his desire to work directly with Ryan and have a blast doing it. And you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell. No, I don't think it takes anything away from Logan. I think Logan still exists in that universe and brought that everything before it to a close. And this is just something else entirely. So,
well,
people
so
get
many
uptight
things
about their X-Men stuff.
Yeah. Well, so many things, I completely agree with what you have just said.
We're such a boring podcast. It's just I concur. Why didn't I concur?
I think one, it's far enough away from Logan that I don't think it tramples on its toes. Two, Deadpool's been making jokes about Wolverine since Deadpool 1.
Yeah.
So much so that he even had that little what is it? Paperweight of Wolverine dead on the tree.
Yes.
I think it was in 2 maybe or whatever. It's already been done. He's already made fun of it. He's already referenced it. I feel exactly like you said, it was handled in a way that I don't think it takes anything away from Logan, but allows us to move on and reference that to kind of put us, in the MCU of why we're not seeing Logan's Wolverine as opposed to the Wolverine we get. So
right. It's just, but I love Reynolds, joke as Deadpool till you're 90.
Till you're 90.
Till you're 90.
Oh man, it's so funny. This film, so many quips, so many great little spaces. I do really though I will have to say, I feel almost like the villain was wasted in a Deadpool film, because this
kind of was, yeah.
Because
the concept is very interesting.
Because Cassandra Nova was absolutely scary, and Emma did an amazing job of playing that, of just this. It kind of is that, not dichotomy of the crazy uncle, but just someone who is just absolutely unhinged, that you don't know what you're going to get. Rip your skin right off your bones, let you go, all these different things. It just is ridiculous. I thought just absolutely terrifying, and something that could have been a bigger boss for, or a villain for the Avengers, or moving on, or some big thing.
The only thing I'll note with that is I don't think that and I don't know her career, but she doesn't strike me as somebody that would be interested in playing Nova again and again and again, or even in 2 or 3 films. I think she seems like an accomplished enough actress. She was probably cool with it just being a one-off. But yeah, they do write the character in is pretty fascinating.
It reminds me a little bit of, I don't remember how much you were into comics, but they did a comic book series where basically Professor X had basically went into Magneto's mind and took away his power or whatever, but then also took away some of his psychosis, and he became this arch villain called Onslaught. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, obviously not in the same vein, but of that just super powerful mutant who took just about everything and destroyed everything.
Now, maybe he was just too old, but I was sort of disappointed that we didn't get Vinnie Jones playing.
So I watched an interview with Vinnie Jones, and he said they were in talks about it, but he was just I guess putting on the suit, was such a problem and a pain, and it was just so much work that he was I don't really want to do that. And so I think he asked for a bunch of money, and they were like, we just can't do it. I don't know exactly, but he basically said, we tried to work it out. Okay. It didn't get worked out. And I think he was also doing Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman TV show at the time as well.
Okay.
Which,
he's not in it that much anyway. The character, Juggernaut is not.
No.
He's not really featured that heavily. So I just would have been nice. I mean,
yeah. So I was another little cameo, Henry Cavill as Wolverine. I'm going to tell you the Wolverine. But here's the honest truth. If there's one person who could take over the Wolverine from Hugh Jackman, 100%, I think it could be Henry Cavill. Like, just has the build, has the look. Like, when he turned around, I just was absolutely impressed by what he could do. Now, apparently, he smoked that cigar or a cigar for 8 hours straight.
Oh, gosh.
And got himself sick, and possibly also decided to pop. But I mean, think you smoking a cigar for 8 hours in a closed environment, you're getting a lot of, even if you're not inhaling, you're getting a lot of cigar smoke.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're both lovers of a fine cigar, but I can barely do it indoors anymore. It's like only Las Vegas with those smoke eaters they've got up in the ceiling. That's the only way I can do it. You can put me in there with that stale air. It's just like, turn green real fast. No, he does. He looks the part, and it's funny because even like his facial features, he has very similar facial features to Hugh Jackman. Like there's not a huge stark departure. Obviously Cavill's quite a bit. I tend to think that Cavill's a little bit bigger than him physically, although Jackman is just ridiculous at 55 or however old he is.
Oh my goodness. Like, looks amazing.
Ridiculous. But I did love the little offshoot to where they had a version of Wolverine that was like 5'3".
Yeah.
Like and I had to tell Gwen that later, like, hey, that's comic book accurate Wolverine. He's like 5'3". She's like, what? She's like, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, well, if you understand what the character can do, like, it doesn't matter that he's 5'3". It would just destroy you. But on screen, it is absolutely hysterical. You'd have to cast Daniel Radcliffe to go comic accurate.
And he didn't really bulk up. Well, I think going back, I think that's one of the great things about Henry Cavill, because Hugh Jackman is lean and tall, right? And so he doesn't look short. Where Henry Cavill, while he is tall, he's broader shouldered than Hugh Jackman. So even though he's tall, he looks stockier. So you could almost get away with having him feel closer to that shorter Wolverine, even though Cavill is not short.
Yeah, I mean, Jackman's listed at 6'2", and I think Cavill's like 6 or 6'1". So Jackman is taller than him. But yeah, you're right. Cavill's just got a bigger build to him.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, I don't think that's going to happen now. I think Jackman's just going to keep showing up now.
I do love, and I was very happy that Reynolds and company wrote it to basically as an apology to Henry Cavill for all the crap that happened with him and Superman. Just like it felt, I was like, okay, at least he's getting acknowledged on the big screen that he was kind of screwed over by DC.
I don't think I've ever seen a better actor wasted as a superhero in a superhero role more than Cavill's Superman. So, but again, the perfect storm of like personal tragedy, and they just dropped the ball.
Well, that's okay, because Cavill is just going to be doing a remake of the Man from U.N.C.L.E. series with Guy Ritchie.
Well, and I believe they're starting in production or pre-production on the reboot of The Highlander.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think that's going to be excellent. Yeah. And I'm okay with the reboot on that. That movie's very good. The first one's really good.
Yeah. The second one drops off pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then the third one that they did like 10 years later, 15 years later is trash.
Then it got relegated to like really bad TV on like USA Network or something like that. It was like, it's weird how that happens with those franchises. They just descend and decline. And then you're just relegated to like a really bad TV spinoff. And then it goes dormant, and then they realize,
and then they rebooted because they're like, let's do it. Oh, yeah. So there was a lot that was done right on this film, just kind of changing it up. But obviously we talked about it was shot really good. Once the color was was done, it was great. And
I'm trying to think why my wheels are turning on why the color would have been washed
like
out.
It was, yeah.
Unless somebody accidentally hit a button and the color space profile was set wrong. But yeah. I don't know. Doesn't make sense.
I've since gone back and rewatched the opening sequence, and I'm going to tell you, with the colors, actually they're right. It pops. That red on the snow, the blood on the snow, just looks fantastic. And I'm like, oh man, I really wish I had seen this the way it was supposed to be seen.
It's a crazy sequence. It goes on for a long time. Like I wasn't bored, but I was like, man, this sequence is lasting. But if they had opening credits running on it too, so no, the acting in this is really good. I mean, you've got obviously Reynolds, Jackman, Emma. You got Matthew McFadden as Mr. Paradox. Like Favreau's in it.
Yeah,
nice just time. Yeah. The problem was it'd been too long since I've seen Deadpool 2, so I'd forgotten all about Peter Poole. Like I just didn't remember who he was. I was like, who is this guy? I forgot that he was one of the X-Force. X-Force, like the normal guy from X-Force. Yeah. I forgot all about that. So I didn't do any prep work of watching 1 and 2. I don't usually do that. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to that stuff. I don't usually like do let me get myself caught back up to watch part 3. I guess technically part 3.
There was, there's stuff to miss, and there's like went back and read about Easter eggs that I missed or Easter eggs I did catch and kind of got to enjoy it that way. And I'm sure I'll probably watch it another time, but it's definitely, as we talked about, it's not something I'm going to have on repeat or watch a ton of times.
I didn't realize until I'm looking at this right now that the director, Shawn Levy, who did, he did Free Guy as a producer. He produced Free Guy. I didn't realize he directed 8 episodes of Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got a great, he also did the Adam Project.
Okay. He did direct Free Guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's the first movie that Ryan Reynolds and him did, because then they did the Adam Project, which is on Netflix.
And he directed Real Steel, which is a Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. So
that robot boxing movie.
I really like Levy. Like, say what you will about the Adam Project. It was a fun movie. I wouldn't say it's the most amazing film ever, but it was definitely a solid, enjoyable film. Free Guy was a lot of fun as well. Like,
well, he directed Date Night, which I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
He made a really tough transition from directing TV to feature filmmaking. He did it the way they normally do, which is you start directing feature films, but they've got to be comedies. That's like the easiest way to make the jump from directing television.
Yeah.
90th Museum. Yeah, he's been around a long, long time. I don't know. I'm almost surprised that he was tapped for Deadpool and Wolverine and not. I'd have to go back and see who the directors that were for part 1 and 2.
Oh, for the other 2.
I'm just surprised that this film was not directed by, or did the same guy direct part 1 and 2?
No, Tim Miller directed part 1.
Okay.
And Tim Miller did. He's executive produced the Borderlands.
Which
movie.
I've heard is terrible.
Yeah, and I'm really sad about that.
He didn't direct Borderlands, but
no, he just produced it. We did Terminator: Dark Fate.
Yeah, so he's more of an action director, and it's like they didn't hire like an action director for Deadpool and Wolverine. They obviously with Levy they hired a comedic director. So I think that was the right move.
And then David Leitch, maybe I'm pronouncing his last name. He was the one who did Deadpool 2.
Oh, okay.
He did Bullet Train. He's done Atomic Blonde. He just recently directed The Fall Guy, the one with Emily Blunt, and
maybe that's what he was working on.
Maybe that's why he didn't do it.
It wasn't available.
But it could also be. I mean, I know that they have a good Shawn Levy and Ryan Reynolds have a good working relationship enough that he's invited, like Ryan's invited him to the box at Wrexham several times to be there. So I think there's some kind of enjoyment.
I bet Free Guy was a really good working experience for them.
Yeah.
And then Hugh Jackman's familiar from working with them on Real Steel. So that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for doing these movies with people that you actually enjoy working with. I mean, you'll find that tends to trump talent a lot of times. It's go ahead.
It's
more important. No, it's just more important that you see eye to eye and try to have a good experience. And it seems like there's been this shift now with all these strikes and all this stuff that you can tell people are like actors and producers, directors, writers, they're starting to prioritize working with people that they actually enjoy being in the room with, rather than trying to hire the very, very best director or the very, very best writer. It seems like it's even taken more of a priority of like, no, I want to have a good time doing this, because now because I've had I had a horrible experience. I was reading an interview, or it was thing with George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and George Clooney was just going off on how horrible his experience was making Three Kings with David Russell.
Yeah.
But he just was like, it was abhorrently bad, which, by the way, that seems to be the experience everybody has working with Russell. Nobody has anything good to say about that guy. Just a miserable human being is what Clooney basically, he actually wasn't that nice, but that was the gist.
Yeah.
So yeah, it matters. So yeah, I'm Free Guy seems like the impetus for this team up, and it worked well. I mean, I didn't feel like the action was really like lessened that much from the other entries in the Deadpool films. Like,
well, it's a little, the action's always been over the top. And so it's almost, well, it's not almost, it is like comedic action anyways. It's a nice foray into getting it done, from like comedies to now this, like some light comedic action to maybe getting into something that's more.
But that dog, man. So that is I don't remember what year, but that is a winner of Britain's Ugliest Dog.
Oh, really?
I don't remember his name that plays Dogpool, but that was like disgusting and hilarious, all wrapped into one, which kind of sums up Deadpool. Yeah. So
one little last fun fact I love is that Nice Pool is actually credited as Gordon Reynolds, which is Ryan Reynolds' fake twin that he sometimes will pretend to interview himself. And like, they just have this like hate relationship.
Yeah,
it's just,
Nice Pool as Gordon Reynolds.
Yeah. It's just great as this, like, he just brings everything full circle, like as much as he can, into play. Just, he's one marketing machine by himself. Like, he alone can just market whatever and
has basically been playing the same role for
years.
I mean, I don't fault the guy, but I mean, when I watch Van Wilder and then I watch this, just saying, like, pretty much cashed in playing a smartass, which I think is great.
Yeah.
And he's been very, very, very savvy on picking projects. And then I keep reading about this guy, Ryan Reynolds, just opening doors for other folks too.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the recent one. I cannot remember for the life of me that basically they got it. Oh, it was, I think he basically almost single-handedly got Harold and Kumar go to White Castle Made.
Yeah.
Agreed to be in it for a really low rate. And once he signed on, the studio said, okay,
let's do it.
You got it. And that's just one story about this guy opening the path for other folks trying to get in the industry. So
or being willing to step below what your stature is, or, where you're at, and to help someone else out, you know, like not being too full of yourself to be like, I remember when I was here, I really wish I had someone who helped me out, or maybe he did have someone help him out. And it's like, now I'm returning the favor. Will you have any last comments on Deadpool and Wolverine before we sign off? No, just it's a lot of fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, but no, it's good. I figure anybody listening to this has probably seen it, but hopefully they heeded your advice early on in the episode to just stop what you're doing and go watch it. Yeah. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in to another episode of the pod, and we'll be back next week. And just keep. You're probably just at this point, you're probably gonna have to keep watching older stuff because it's just slim pickings out there for the time being. I mean, occasionally I'm looking at like what's on the release slate for the back half of 2024, and I'm like, there was something big, but I've forgotten already about what it was. But there's a few slated for you got Gladiator 2 in November, and then there's some stuff in December they've waited till the very end of the year, but it's not a lot of stuff. And so as far as comedy stuff, this is the best one I've seen
for this year. So, well, we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everybody.